welcome to a financial planning segment of your series of your workshops. My name is Alita Osland, and I have been teaching various finance classes at Cal State Long Beach since 1996. So it's been quite a while. I'm wondering if some of you have even been born yet, but yeah, I've been doing it for a really long time, and I never intended to be a teacher of any kind. I graduated with a master's degree from Cal State Long Beach and thought I was going to get into the personal financial planning field, and I was approached by my department chair and offered me a position to teach personal finance. And I was 24 years old, and I thought, this is an amazing opportunity. I probably shouldn't pass this up. So I managed to do my day job as a financial planner and teach classes at night, and I absolutely loved it. And I ended up going to UCI and applying for a job teaching an insurance class and was hired. Then I went to Marymount College in Palos Verdes and was teaching an accounting class. And then I was teaching financial planning seminars at 7 junior colleges around the area. So I had about 12 paychecks when I was young, super motivated to buy a house, which I did 1 year out of college. So when people say, how do we get started? It's all about managing yourself and managing your money. And I'm excited for you to be here to take part in this workshop. And you're going to meet so many amazing speakers that have different types of experience that are going to benefit you in all different areas to help you live a well-rounded, functional, efficient, and hopefully stress-free lifestyle. And I know most of you are hoping to have a career in football. And you never know what your career is where it's going to take you, what bumps you might have, what successes and what failures, but you always need to plan. And my husband and I own several businesses together, but I still teach. I'm still teaching these financial planning classes. And this PowerPoint I'm about to show you is a compilation of about 3 different classes, from an intro to finance to an advanced financial analysis class, all the way to a financial planning for the aging, which is a gerontology class. And what I can tell you about financial planning is that you need to financial plan every day. Every day you make decisions and choices on how to spend your money. And the thing is most Americans have a good job. They make money. But why is everybody broke? It comes down to not being responsible and not being in tune and doing some very basic steps. So with that said, I'm gonna get started on my slideshow, which is called Financial Planning for Life. Because again, you have to make a commitment to yourself to manage your money and make good choices from this point onward, which is tough, I know. So my first slide says, do you have a written retirement income plan in place? Do you have financial goals? You gotta sit down and really think to yourself, I'm making money, or I'm about to make good money. What do I want that to mean for myself? How am I gonna be disciplined to save for tomorrow? Because again, I don't know what tomorrow might hold. So the first thing everybody needs to do, if everybody in America just sat down and wrote a budget, everybody would be one step ahead, because they would be in tune with, where does my money go? Why am I living paycheck to paycheck? Simply sitting down and writing out a budget and a financial plan and getting in touch with what your goals are is very important as a first step. Most Americans, depending on their education level, their job level, don't necessarily need to live paycheck to paycheck. But people like things. People like to buy things, and people like to kind of show off, or have the latest iPhone, have the latest fanciest car. For women, a lot of times they buy a lot of consumer goods that are very expensive purses or jewelry. Is that a need or is that a want? And that's something that people really, I think, need to get in tune with. So something that's going on right now, and I don't know how much TV or how much news you watch, but the rate of inflation is, a little bit like this. Interest rates are, kind of all over the place. We're in a time right now of influx. We're not really sure where interest rates are going to be tomorrow, where they're going to be in 2 years or 5 years. If I had a crystal ball, my life would be a lot easier. But what we can do in times of inflation is we can look back, we can look at historical, and we can see trends in the economy. And your job is to play football, that's your career. Your job is not to figure out the economy. But what you can do is you can align yourself up with people that are trustworthy, that will help you navigate your money, navigate your career, navigate yourself. And the hope is that you make wise choices with the people around you too, because association is really, really important for success. But basically what this slide demonstrates is that inflation, whether it is at 2%, 3%, 4%, I mean, gosh, there's been historical, big highs. What it boils down to is the cost of everything from a cup of coffee to a scoop of ice cream, to a gallon of gas, to a car, to a home, to the cost of, let's say, lumber to build homes. It's going up. So inflation is a general rise in the cost of living. So a car that might cost $50,000 today is going to cost almost double that in 20 years. So what you need to do is you need to figure out, how can my money keep up and overshoot inflation so that I am staying ahead of inflation? And for people who don't trust banks and don't put their money in the bank, they're actually losing money. The whole, put your money under the mattress thought is really silly. You could have your house broken into and you can get, all your money taken. But B, you've got to invest and save your money at a rate higher than inflation. So what inflation does is it decreases that value of that dollar. So that dollar stuffed under a mattress or put in a coffee can is going to lose its purchasing power. So when somebody has, let's say, $1 million saved for retirement, that's only going to be the equivalent of about half of that in 20 years. And here's the thing, you guys. If we were all together in a room right now, I would say, how many of you love to go on a cruise? How many of you would love to go to Hawaii? How many of you would love to go to Europe? That's a great vacation. Well, your retirement is going to be a 40 or 50-year vacation. How are you going to pay for that every day? And a lot of people don't save for retirement. They live paycheck to paycheck, and then, it's like, well, what are you going to do when you retire, when you can't work any longer? Where is that money going to come from? You are not going to be able to afford to put food in your mouth, let alone go on any vacations. So what I'm here to do is to put the seed in your brain early, to let you know that there's ways to safeguard your money and ways to have it grow and work for you, so that when you turn 55, 60, 65, you're not in poverty in retirement, so that you have financial freedom like I have, which I'm going to have because I've worked very hard and I've made the right choices, and I've put my money in all different types of investments, which I'll share with you today. And that's the hope for most Americans. It's, when I teach college students, I try to preach to them about their financial goals. And it's like, make sure you have retirement as a long-term financial goal and make a commitment to it. You don't want to live with your children. You don't want to be homeless, and you can't live on Social Security. And we will talk about that. So people always ask me, what is the biggest financial secret? And you can read all kinds of books from all kinds of financial gurus. But in my opinion, I think the biggest secret is living within your means. And I have friends that make $500,000, $1 million a year. And I have friends that make $80,000 a year. And I have seen firsthand people that make $80,000 a year have a higher net worth than somebody that makes $1 million a year. And the reason is because somebody who makes $500,000 a year might spend $600,000. And the person that's making $80,000 a year is spending 70 or even 60. They're living within their means. They're being financially responsible. And I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, pay yourself first. That's a very big financial rule. Pay yourself first means when you get your paychecks, put money away for retirement. Put money in a savings account for your financial goals. And what you have left over, which is anywhere from 10 to 20%, you take that amount and you pay your bills. And one of the things to you guys is just don't get into debt. Don't finance things. Financing things is terrible, and we're gonna kind of get there next. But what is net worth? And when I was a student at Cal State Long Beach, my finance teacher gave an analogy, and I still use it to this day with my students, so I'm gonna use it on you. He said, I was in this bar, this cowboy bar, and this cowboy came in and he had this huge hat, and it was really fancy, and he looked like he was the wealthiest cowboy in town. And then there was this other cowboy that came shuffling in with the smallest little cowboy hat, and he was just filthy, just full of dirt, just a mess. And turns out the guy that was a mess with the small little cowboy hat owned the most cattle in town. And the guy with the big fancy hat, the big shooter guy, he didn't own any cattle. He was all talk. So when you're driving down the freeway and you look over at someone driving a Bentley or a Rolls Royce and you think to yourself, wow, I wonder what they do for a living. You know, sometimes they're one payment away from having that car repossessed. And there's a lot of books like The Millionaire Next Door. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book, but it's about people living frugally and living within their means and saving and doing everything right, and they're actually millionaires. And that's how I've chosen to live my life, is to be really financially set, to make financial choices and to have freedom, and to put what my priorities are first, which is, for me, usually experiences. I will spend a lot of money on a nice family vacation to spend time with my kids, and I don't drive the fanciest car. But I can tell you what, my car's paid off. I pay cash for everything. I don't finance things. So you can't always go by, oh, that person looks wealthy, because half the time they're in a ton of debt. It's up to their eyeballs. They can't sleep at night. They're probably having massive anxiety over because creditors are calling them. So again, net worth is, what are your assets? What are you worth? What are your liabilities? And if you're upside down, you're in trouble. You need to really take a check, and don't let yourself get upside down. You're all going to be in a position where, again, you don't have to be in debt. So don't go down that path. Your credit becomes a part of you. Think of like this little mini person next to me that's like attached to me, hanging on to me. I can't get rid of it, right? It's my credit score. My credit score is going to be my ability to get to money. Okay, my credit score, if I have really good credit, banks are gonna wanna give me money, right? I can open up a business, I can get a small business loan, I could go buy a house, I could go buy an apartment building because I have good credit. The minute you have bad credit, nobody wants to give you money to help you grow. They also wanna charge you much higher interest. So the people with the good credit get the low interest rates, and the people with the bad credit get high interest rates. So the people that play everything wrong, they overspend, they don't live within their means, they get into debt, they don't pay their bills on time, they're just circling down this really bad road, and it's really hard to dig yourself out of it. So here's kind of, what goes into that FICO score. And you'll notice the biggest section is your payment history. Make sure you pay your bills on time. Be responsible people. Don't have a lot of credit. There's no reason to have more than 2 credit cards. I've researched this. I've done talks. I was interviewed on a TV show on why would people need more than 2 credit cards. And the reason, really, you could use 1. But most people have a personal and a business card. Or they have 2 personal in case one gets compromised and they need one in a hurry for traveling or whatnot. But really align yourself with 1 major credit card. Do not have a Victoria's Secret and a Macy's and a Nordstrom's and a gas station and a Target and a Best Buy. Junk, okay? Junk. You only need a major credit card. And for the most part, what do you care about the interest rate if you're paying it off every month? Just get a good, reliable credit card. Okay, the next financial trick I want to show you is called the rule of 72. And the rule of 72 has been around forever. Even when I was in college, I had to figure it out. But what it is it's a very fast and easy way for you to figure out how long it would take for your money to double. So I'm sure you've all heard stories, like maybe from a parent or a grandparent, I bought this house, back in the day for $30,000 and it's worth $1 million now. Wow, I mean, that's amazing, right? That is the magic of compound interest. Compound interest is when your money grows with interest, and that interest now grows with more interest, with more interest, with more interest. It's like a snowball effect. And the rule of 72 is a very quick way to figure out how long it would take your money to double in your head. So let's say that, and I do this one with my college students, and it's really super easy to follow. Let's say that you're a young person, you're in college, and you're coming into a little bit of money, okay? Let's say that some of you are signing some of these bonuses and things, whatnot now. So you're coming into a little bit of money, and you decide, instead of, putting it all down on a car, which is what a lot of people do, they just go buy a car. How much is that fancy car gonna be worth, next year, or 30 years, or 40 years? It's gonna be worth like 60% of its value the day after you drive it off the lot. I think most people know that. But what if you put that money into some sort of a mutual fund? That could average about 10% a year. So what the rule of 72 says is that if you put an interest rate into the number 72, it tells you how many years for your money to double, okay? So let's say instead of, spending all that money, you took $50,000 and you are, I don't know how old some of you are, but let's just say 23 years old. In 7 years, this money is gonna double, right? So how old are you now? You're 30. You're probably tempted to take that money out. Wow, I have $100,000 now. Well, what happens if you don't take it out? Now you've got $200,000. Okay, 7 more years goes by, you have $400,000. 7 more years goes by, you're 50 years old. Oh my gosh, there's $800,000 sitting here. This would be a really nice boat, or a vacation home, or, maybe I've got kids now and I want to pay for their college. But if you could be disciplined and just put money away and then look the other way, I promise you, you will have that vacation when you're in retirement. You'll have vacations all the time. When you're 58, it's now worth 1.6, and finally when you're 65, it's worth 3.2. Don't you think most people would love to have $3.2 million in retirement? And it was as easy as taking an opportunity as a young person and investing it. If you do this with 30,000, you get 2 million, which is still a very impressive amount. The point is time, okay? Investing money is not an overnight thing. Investing money is a long-term type of plan. And I told you compounding interest is like a snowball effect, right? If you have like a big mountain, the snowball, as it comes down, is getting really big. So time plus interest are the keys to long-term wealth. So again, compound interest is when that interest is growing with interest over time. Now, the inverse on this is credit cards. It's banks, it's personal loans. They are making this on you, and they compound the interest on credit cards daily. And most Americans don't understand interest, and they don't understand how credit cards work, and they get really buried and they can't get out from under it. So I'm going to share with you a free app, and I hope all of you will take a minute and download this Easy Calculator app. I'm going to actually show you what it will do. When you open the app on your phone, it's going to look like this in the corner, the little light blue. And what I do when I use this calculator is I go to time value of money. And what it shows you is that if you were to put in a payment is like, I'm gonna save this much money every month. Okay, so at some point, hopefully you're all in a situation to where you're saving for a home, or you're saving for retirement, or you get some sort of a longer term career with a 401k plan. So how much does money grow? If I were to save 500, and I have this calculator set to month, you can change the mode of compounding. If I save $500, and I can average 10% on my investments, and I'm gonna do that, and I'm doing it monthly, so I'm gonna do that. You guys are really young, so let's come up with an amount here. If you did that for 40 years, That's 480 months. Okay, so 480 months. Oh boy, okay. I'm using a calculator that's not on the app. So let me just tell you real quick on my app, because the app I think is a lot easier than the actual website. So if you were to put in $500 at 10% for 40 years, you would get 3.1 million 60,000. So almost 3.2 million. Same type of thing as here. This was a lump sum of $50,000. The alternative is put in $500 a month for 40 years and you'll also have 3.2 million. In this calculator app, there's also a loan calculator. And when I am in class with my students, most of them don't know anything about interest and what happens to them when they go down to, let's say, the Apple store and they charge a new computer. Let's say a young couple gets married and they buy a home and they walk into a Home Depot and they decide to charge some new appliances. And these stores are very accommodating with, hey, let's give you 10% off if you open up a credit card today. So I looked up what the interest rate is at Home Depot and Lowe's. It's an average of 29.8%. So I'm gonna jump onto my loan calculator and I'm gonna say, hey, if you were to purchase $20,000 of appliances, right? You have an appliance package, you buy all the stainless steel appliances, your washer, your dryer, the whole bit, and it's 29% interest, and you decide, hey, I'm gonna pay this off for 5 years. The monthly payment is $634. The total interest that you pay over the 5 years is $18,090. So you just double paid for your appliances. And this is the mentality that a lot of Americans have. They want everything now. They don't understand what delayed gratification is. Instead of having a financial goal and saving the money for that goal and paying cash, they just run in, buy it now, put it on a credit card. Any department store card is gonna be at about 24 to 30% interest depending on your credit. 29, 28 point something was an average. So if you need a new computer, save a couple of months and go buy it. Don't charge it. If you need new appliances, what's wrong with looking on, a used website? What's wrong with going to the old like Sears outlet, right? And finding some appliances that might have a little scratch on them. Don't spend $20,000 on your appliances. Being successful with your money is changing your mindset with how you spend your money. You're gonna work really hard for your money, so protect it. Don't just give it out, okay? And don't borrow. If you can pay for things up front, it's always a very wise choice to make. So when we get into retirement planning, what goes into that soup, right? What are you gonna put into your soup? So a lot of Americans think that Social Security is a retirement plan. And if you look at the history of Social Security, FDR created Social Security to be a supplement to the American's income. It was a 40% supplement is what it was supposed to be. So if I'm making $100,000 a year and I've become accustomed to spending and living on $100,000 a year, how is it gonna feel when all of a sudden I'm getting $40,000 a year? I'm gonna have to really, really buckle my belt. And what happens if I didn't financially plan correctly and I didn't buy a home when I was young and my rent is going up and I'm on this very reduced income? It's a train wreck. It's just a train wreck waiting to happen. So when you're a young person, when you're a young professional starting out, the best thing you can do is figure out, do I have a pension plan? Do I have access to a pension plan? And if not, there's other types of ways to save for retirement with tax advantages. So your three-legged stool is, sure, hopefully Social Security is gonna be around. I don't know if it is or not. It needs a lot of reform. Pension is qualified money that the IRS says it qualifies for a tax advantage. And I'm gonna go over a few of those with you. And then bingo, your personal savings. So whether you have the best pension around, and I know a lot of professional athletes that actually do have a Major League Baseball or a football pension, it's still not going to float the lifestyle that you may have become accustomed to. You have to supplement with a personal savings plan. So here's kind of the way it's been. People have always been told if you work really hard, your company or your government will take care of you. And the rules have changed on both ends. So you'll notice that the rules have changed on Social Security. And people are living a lot longer, you guys. The advances in technology with healthcare are amazing. So the mortality tables, when Social Security first came out, they thought like men would maybe pass away by 70. Whereas now people are living to 100 and sometimes even longer than 100. So the average mortality rate has been extended greatly. There's also more people retiring each day now than being born. So we're going to have this overabundance of retirees. So what does that mean? It means that more people are taking from Social Security than putting in. And then there's a lot of other issues that go along with it too, where there not as much money is going in than it needs to be. So what's going to happen? There's going to need to be some reform. But until that happens, Social Security is in jeopardy. I don't want to count on it. And I tell my students in my classes, why not go into your career overfunding all of your retirement avenues? Buying investments, buying real estate, buying stocks, buying treasuries with your money that you have parked around, that you're not sure what to do with. Being proactive with saving money so that you are not relying on anybody else. You're being proactive and you're being responsible for yourself. Companies also no longer really offer the true pension. I know there's still a lot of government pension. I will be getting a government pension from the California state school system. Do I rely on that? Heck no, I don't think it's gonna be enough. So I have my own retirement plan. But what has happened is there's been just this big shift with companies feeling like we can't support a pension plan. So the 401k plan was introduced, I think back in the 80s, and it shifted the responsibility to the employee, where the employer is providing a 401k plan, but it's up to the employee to participate in that 401k plan. So a 401k plan, an IRA, a SEP IRA, a stock participation plan, any of these employer provided plans have tax advantages. And taxes are a huge part of personal financial planning. You really need to be in touch with taxes, because taxes are going to take up a huge chunk of your money. And for those of you that might be going pro and you're signing multi-million dollar contracts, the government has their hand out. Whenever you put money into an investment or a savings account, they have their hand out. When your investment grows, they want a capital gain tax. When you take your money out, they want a distribution tax. The government wants to tax you every which way. So I put on the board, hey, what are taxes? You're paying taxes on a federal level, you're paying taxes on your state and your local, and then with your after-tax dollars, everywhere you go, you're gonna pay tax. You try to put gas in your car, you try to book an airline ticket, your cell phone, do you guys know how much tax is put on utilities? It's crazy. You go to a restaurant, you're paying tax on your food. Everything we do, they tax us. If you buy a home, there's property tax. Taxes are everywhere, we can't escape it, right? There's two things in life you can't avoid, death and taxes. But one thing that you can do is you can educate yourself on taxes, and you can put more money in your pocket than in the government's pocket by playing the game smart. There's a lot of tax advantages in real estate, and my husband and I have really explored those avenues. And then there's a lot of tax advantages in these qualified plans. So I threw up here just so you guys could kind of see what the increased tax rate is as you make more money. So we have a progressive tax system here in America. The more you make, the more you pay. So I know a lot of you might see, through social media or some media channels, and again, I don't want to be saying, oh, fake news, but to some degree they act like, as you get richer, you're not paying taxes, and it's very, very, very untrue. You have to be very careful with what you listen to and what you believe. But get ready, because I want you to be so successful and I want you to make so much money, but you're gonna pay a lot of taxes. So you're going to need to seek out a good accountant, and you're going to need to seek out some ways to shelter some of your money legally, okay? So not paying taxes is illegal, but using tax laws to avoid paying taxes through the way they write the tax code, perfectly legal, perfectly fine, but people don't educate themselves on finding those tax advantages. I skipped over a slide here. This is an example of a budget. So what a typical budget is you would enter all of your income. Where am I getting all of my income from? And then you're gonna minus all of your expenses. What are your fixed expenses? Fixed expenses are things that are fixed, like your mortgage or your rent or your health insurance contribution or all of your insurances. But things that you can control are your entertainment, right? Your food. Am I eating out too much? Am I wasting money on that? Am I spending $1,000 a month at a bougie gym? Where can I cut back? And those are your adjusted expenses. So at the end of all of this, you add up where all your money's going. And I have on here, it says, plan out your spending. Don't just spend to spend. Be in touch with why are you spending, and try to write down every dollar you spend for a month. And if you can do that exercise, I think you'll get better in touch with why you're spending, how you're spending, and where you could maybe cut back. Financial planning is planning, and failure to plan is basically going to lead you to being broke. I don't know if any of you know who Warren Buffett is, but ever since I entered college as a college student, his name was everywhere in the finance world. If you go on YouTube and you put in his name, there's going to be a ton of videos about Warren Buffett. He's just a very smart man. He takes undervalued things from companies to properties and he makes them money. So I thought this was a cute quote. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after you save. It goes along those lines of paying yourself first. A very efficient budget is when you put 10 to 20% away, 10% for retirement and 10% for other financial goals. Then you have to pay your fixed expenses. And again, your variable expenses you have some control over. Okay, so retirement plans. We have a traditional and a Roth retirement option now. And the Roth is fairly new. And the reason why the Roth actually was introduced was because Roth is the last name of a senator who proposed a way to save for retirement with tax advantages in a different way. So I told you that the government, the IRS, wants tax money. So when you save for retirement with a traditional 401k or a traditional IRA, you get a tax deduction. So as the money goes into a traditional IRA, you do not pay any taxes on that money. So if you're making, let's say, $100,000 a year and you put $10,000 into your 401k, that money goes in tax-free. And now you're going to pay taxes on your adjusted income, which is $90,000. As that money grows in your IRA, right? Every year it's gonna, accumulate with interest. Do you pay taxes on that growth? Because I mentioned earlier that the government's got their hand out, and every time you make money on an investment, they want to tax you. But if it's inside a qualified retirement plan, no, the government doesn't get their grubby hands on your money. But guess what happens? At one point, after age 59 and a half, you're gonna take your money out to spend it, right? Woohoo, I finally get to spend, I'm in retirement. They're waiting. And you now have to pay your tax as it comes out. So Roth said, hey, I don't think the government's gonna get more efficient and lower taxes. I'd kind of like to pay my taxes now. I want to put money in a qualified retirement plan with tax advantages, but I just want to pay the tax now. Because again, I don't know what taxes are going to be in 30 years when I retire. So if you do a Roth, you use your after-tax dollars to put it in there, and it still grows tax-free, but guess what? It comes out tax-free. It's the opposite. And most of you can participate in plans through your employer. You can do both. But the government says you can only put so much away per year. So currently it's at about $19,500. They limit how much you can put in here. So if you're Beyonce and you're making like, I don't know, how much does she make? Hundreds of millions a year. This is pocket change, right? So somebody like that maxes out this and they're still looking for more ways to save money and not pay all that to taxes. Not pay 37%, on your 100 million to taxes. So people are constantly looking for this tax deferred. I'm deferring, I'm waiting, I'm putting off paying taxes as my money grows. Qualified retirement plans are the only legal by the IRS plans that have these types of tax advantages. And my advice to you is participate as early as you can. Remember my snowball on my mountain. Participate as early as you can, but you can't touch that money till you're 59 and a half. If you do, it's a 10% penalty, plus you pay income taxes. So the average person's in about, 28% tax bracket, plus the 10% penalty. You just lost 40% of what you took out, so don't take it out. And there are some little clauses on education and buying a home for the first time, some benefits to take it out. Okay, so this was a comparison again with the Roth and the traditional. So if you decide, okay, I'm gonna put $10,000 a year in here. What does it mean in here? Where is it going? What if I invest in an IRA or a 401k, where is the money actually going? So I'm sure you have heard the little phrase, hey, don't put all your eggs in one basket, diversify. Diversifying means putting your money in some different places, because again, like right now, we're having a little bit of a volatile time with the market. You wouldn't want to go and put all your money into Tesla stock, or all your money into Apple stock, or all your money into Disney, or some big company. Because if that company isn't managing their company correctly, or they have some scandal, or something goes on, you could lose your money overnight, right? The stock market's just kind of like this. But should you buy a little bit of Tesla and a little bit of Disney and a little bit of Coca-Cola and a little bit of Ford stock? Sure. So that's where this phrase comes with all these eggs. You should diversify your money amongst real estate. And then within real estate, all types of real estate. You could invest in single family homes, you can invest in commercial property, you can invest in retail property. Within stock, I mentioned you can buy all different types of stocks. You could buy different types of government securities as well. There's different types of bonds, there's different types of T-bills. And companies also have corporate bonds, and they have preferred stock and common stocks. There's a lot of ways to diversify your money. So when you make a commitment to put money into an IRA or a 401k, that is a commitment to your retirement plan. You're not going to touch that money until you're 59 and a half. But where you put it within the plan is up to you. So what this slide is this is actually my favorite slide. I'm trying to make it bigger on here. This slide represents the stock market pretty much. And each of these colors is a different type of investment. So the magenta is real estate, the brown is high yield, black is diversified, foreign stock, large cap, mid cap, large growth, small cap. I've got commodities here in gray. So these all represent really mutual funds as well. So when you go to participate in an IRA or a 401k, you're going to be offered a portfolio of mutual funds. And my rule that I tell my kids in college is take the number of 100, subtract your age. What you end up with should be invested aggressively. So if you are 25 years old, then the difference from 100 to 25 is 75. 75% of your money going into your 401k or going into your investments should be pretty aggressive because you have time. You have time to ride it out. If the market looks like this and we're coming down right now, you have time to have it grow back up. Okay, so this could be maybe the year 2020 and this is the year 2070, right? 50 years. We know the market's going to go up and down. And for sometimes people, they work off of fear and greed. Okay, so remember that, and let's look at commodities. Okay, commodities is like buying gold and silver. Commodities are known as Valencia oranges or oil. It's like tangible assets, and people invest in everything. So if you look at commodities, they start off as the loser, right? Why would anybody want to invest in that? It's negative. But look at what commodities do. They become the number one in the year 2000. So when I say people operate on fear and greed, when they see it as number one, they jump on the bandwagon and they buy because they're greedy. And greed isn't bad, by the way. I don't want you to think greed is a bad connotation. Greed is what motivates us. Greed is what has you working so hard and being so committed and getting to where you got. Greed is what makes kids go to college. They want a better job, right? We want things. So we have that greed in us. So people buy commodities because they're doing good. But when they go all the way back to a negative 19%, the fear in them kicks in and they go, oh God, no, I'm selling this. So now they lost a lot of money. And then commodities is now back to number one. So the greed kicks back in and they go and they try again, only to see that commodities drop down again, from here they go all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. So if you are constantly trying to chase the best investment, you're never gonna get ahead. You're never gonna make any money. And it's called dollar cost averaging. So if you invest in, let's say, Apple stock, and you buy a couple of shares of Apple stock, and they're at $20 a share, and you, depending on how much money you have, you get to buy quite a few shares. But what happens if Apple stock goes down to $10 a share? People, because of this concept, because of that fear, they panic and they sell. But I want you to think of it as your long-term retirement plan. When Apple stock goes down to $10, it's on clearance. So if I tell you that your favorite pair of shoes that are normally $200 are now $100, you get to buy 2 pairs, right? You get to buy more. It's exciting when your stuff's on sale. So why aren't people thinking that with their investments, with their stocks, with their mutual funds? So when it goes down to 10, you might have been able to buy 20 shares here. Well, heck, you get to buy 40 shares here. And when Apple stock goes up, everybody's all happy, but your money is going to buy you less shares now. So the concept of dollar cost averaging is to commit to a certain amount of money, right? We used $500 before. How many shares can $500 buy you? And at the end of the day, between 2020 and 2070, it's the number of shares times the dollar amount. And that's when you start pulling your money out. And you've got to look at things in that way because investing is a long-term plan. And every day things change. Your plan constantly needs to be adjusted. And as people age, going back to that rule I use, 100 minus your age, when somebody's 70 years old, you take 100 minus 70, 30% should still be invested in something in the market. Maybe more preferred stocks that are going to give them a promised dividend. 70% should be invested in some pretty solid, conservative, fixed investments. You've got to shift your plan. And as your life changes, as you get married, as you have children, your goals are going to change and your plans are going to change. But the important thing is that you're sitting down and making that plan, that you're in tune with how much money am I bringing in, how much money am I spending, and how much money can I put towards my retirement and my other goals. And if you live your life in a goal-oriented fashion, when it comes to your spending, if every day when you spend money, you think to yourself, is this a need? Is this a want? Do I really need this? Or do I really want this? If you practice that, and I promise if you write down everything that you spend for a month and get in tune with your spending habits, and you have open communication within your family about money, you will have a much more successful financial future. Always be open with your spouse, your future spouse, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever you have. And I know you're gonna go through some workshops here with, picking a spouse. It's so important to always have an open communication line with money, to hide money from each other. Money is the number one cause of divorce. And I think a lot of times it's just because people are not on the same wavelength. They don't share the same goals. They're not talking about money. So talk about it. It's okay to talk about. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this talk. And I may be doing more for you. I don't know. We'll see. But best of luck with your career and your finances. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Okay, thank you.
That was so good. That was really so concisely put.
I couldn't get this